Book and a Bev. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of A Book and a Bev. We are your co-hosts, Bryony, Ellie and Georgia. Claire is still making us all look silly and studying her little butt off, and we miss her dearly. We are back from our little mini hiatus, so I know you missed us. And we are here to cover The Hating Game by Sarah Thorne. It is office romance, but not inappropriate in a HR way. And it's like grumpy sunshine. I love it. It's a good little rom-com to like give you a palate cleanser and get you back in the game.
That's what we need.
What are we drinking this week, ladies?
I think we've all gone down the same path, haven't we?
Yeah, we were all like, strawberry shortcake, strawberry. I got a raspberry cruiser. I did say that I was going to get strawberry Baileys, but I didn't. So we'll just yeet past that.
And this is the first alcohol I'm having in 2 weeks because I'm an overachiever and I got COVID for the second time. And so I have no effort at the moment. So there's red on the can.
Oh, I thought you were about to pull out a, what are they bloody called? A red tin.
Westie.
Just a West End. Yeah.
Fuck it up.
Oh, Jesus.
No,
okay.
just the Johnny Walker and cola instead.
Fair enough.
Fuck it.
Fair
That's
enough.
tasty.
Well, for the first time ever, I think I'm the only one closest to being on trend because my drink does have strawberry written on it. It is a strawberry and watermelon cruiser, so I win this week's round of who's drink. It's never been a competition beforehand, but it is now.
Well, what did we all think of the book, guys?
I loved this book. Like, I love a cute rom-com. And this is everything that I want a rom-com to be. Like, it reminds me a lot sometimes of how mine and Aiden's relationship is and how we're both basically like big kids and we have like a hate-love like friendship along with our relationship. The way that Lucy is reminds me so much of how we all are. Like, we all are. Like, her internal monologue, I'm like, she's silly. She's funny. I like her. But I did actually like the movie. I really loved Lucy Hale as Lucy. I just thought she played her really well. And I wish that you guys had got to watch this movie before reading the cursed fucking book of What Lies Beyond the Veil. Because I know that Bryony picked up on something in this motherfucking movie. That was, he calls her little one.
Oh,
and
no.
we all know, if you've listened to the cursed episode, the one that we do not speak about, we shall not speak about. Little one is quite a strong theme in there, and we all despise it with a passion. So, of course, Bryony found this one tiny bit where he calls her little one, and she has now shunned the movie from existence.
Oh,
it no longer exists. I actually really did like the movie because I didn't even notice that until Bryony pointed it out. But otherwise, I really liked the book. Like, I thought it was a great book, and it's one of those books that I feel like it's like a feel-good book. And like, if I'm, having a really deep fantasy time, and then I need a break and I need a palate cleanser, this is like a perfect book for that.
100%.
I agree. Like, it's such a cute book. It's really, really easy to read and enjoy and get into. And I'm sure nearly everyone could probably guess where the story would end up by just reading the blurb. But the journey was still fun. Like, doesn't mean that's not necessarily a bad thing. It is, as you said, a really good palate cleanser to come back to. But I think if I was reading normally, like not what I do for the podcast, which is like a book a week or something like that, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. Like, if I was taking my time to read a book like that, I think I would have been a bit bored because I need a bit of drama and heartbreak because I'm a sicko, but that's okay. I did really like the subplot of Lucy's mum and her experience in giving up her career to be with her dad. And I wish we really could have explored that a little bit more because that could have been really interesting. All in all, it was giving me vibes of he's only mean to you because he likes you from primary school days, which is kind of problematic, but I'm also here for it. So.
It's so funny that you picked up on that subplot because that subplot went right over my head.
Was it in the movie?
Did not.
No, not even.
No.
The parents aren't even in the film.
You're kidding.
No, they're just yeeted straight past.
I have a bone to pick with her dad. He was way too strong in that book.
Like we said, like this book was just great. There was so much grumpy sunshine that I fucking frothed over it. Like, I love grumpy sunshine and I loved it. exactly what we needed. And when I tell you the noises that I made while I read this book were absolutely feral, I was squawking. I was just happy as can be. No one was related. The tension was steamy. The banter was fantastic. The smut was good, like glorious even. And the romance building was beautiful. Like, you know what's going to happen, but it's a good journey. And like Georgia said, unfortunately, what I cannot forgive, one, is the fact that this book has the movie on the cover, and it's not a sticker. It's stuck there.
I got the book before the movie, so I'm lucky.
You son of a bitch.
Tee-hee.
And I mean, the movie was not bad. The amount of times that I've taken Lucy Hale's photo to my hairdresser is just unparalleled. But again, there was a moment where a particular phrase was used, and I can't deal with that. And it's hard when the book to movie adaptation, the book is always going to be better because there's so much more detail and so many more moments. And I really wanted more of those moments in the movie. So I missed them. Like, even just the shower sex. I wanted the shower sex.
It really glossed over like a lot of the big points.
It was very... like, and I get that they changed the order of some things for the sake of the film, but it just kind of, the heart of their love story and the passion there was just glossed over a bit too much.
Was the gastro still there?
Oh yeah, the gastro is there. No parents though. But yeah, I still love this book, and it was just, really, really enjoyable.
Let's yeet on in. We start off with a very good opening quote. I have a theory. Hating someone feels disturbingly similar to being in love with them. And that is something that I can actually relate to a lot. Because every day I think I say to Aiden, I hate you. Like, we have these back and forth moments where, like, he'll do something that irritates me because that's his love language, is annoying the shit out of me. And I retaliate by saying that I hate him, but really, obviously, I don't hate him. So I just thought it was great, and I love that so much because it really kicks off this book exactly where everyone stands. So basically from that point, we meet our main character, who is Lucinda / aka like Lucy Hutton. And she is the executive assistant to the co-CEO of Bexley and Gamin, which is a publishing house, basically. And she has an arch nemesis, Mr. Joshua Templeton. He is the executive assistant for the other co-CEO.
And his name is Joshua, so you already know he's a dick.
Sorry to any of you Joshuas out there, but...
Stop calling me Josh.
Yes.
Their feud started back when their publishing houses merged. So when Gamin was Gamin and Bexley was Bexley, and then the financial crisis, so they merged to survive. Lucy said hello and smiled at him, and he didn't smile back, and it's been on ever since. They play several games against each other in their, like, war, like the mirror game, where they both imitate each other, the staring game, which is self-explanatory, the trying to make the other crack game, and it just goes on. It doesn't stop. Josh wears the same business shirts in a colour order that Lucy makes fun of, and they also have the HR game, which is where they have traumatised the poor HR worker with the amount of complaints they've made about each other.
I really initially thought that these games were all in Lucy's head. Like, she was just making up based on his actions, and he had no clue what she was doing. Like, imagine how creepy your co-worker has just developed games based on you just going through, like, your normal work day. And you're, like, you know, just highlighting something on their page, and they're like, I must highlight too. And, like, looking over to see
highlighting game.
Oh, my God. That's what I was thinking. Like, and now we're playing the staring game. It's like, well, is he just looking off into space and you're just weirdly staring at him? But no, it does appear that Josh is equally as into it as her. So at least it's not that weird sideshow that it could be.
Lucy's really freaked out when she finds out that Josh has been making, like, these tally marks or, like, noting things down on his notepad as she's been doing things. And basically she tries to investigate by going to his desk when he's out of the office. And she get, like, so fucking close. You know when you're cringing as you're reading? That was me. Because she nearly gets busted when she hears the elevator bell ding. And she's still like, oh shit, I've got to run. Runs. The chair is, like, just spinning. spinning as she like runs, and he walks in and he's like, what were you doing at my desk? And she's like, nothing. And then our friend the courier, because we love our couriers and we love our Oz postmen, shout out to you for dropping off our books every week, he interrupts their little stare off, their little situation, by delivering her a Smurf, which is a very strange kind of kink, but that's fine.
I definitely was not expecting the Smurfs.
No.
I remember when I first read it, I was like, okay. But they make such a large plot point.
But it wasn't
like it's not
that
it's just a
necessary.
once off.
No.
Like, couldn't she have had like a romance book collection, and she used to get like first edition copies of
Erotica.
Yeah.
Erotica. Delivered to the office on weekdays.
Okay, so maybe not that. But there were just so
But
many
Smurfs.
elements about her that made her so childish.
Yes.
This being
Yeah,
a big one.
Yeah, it was kind of a bit like, does the author really like Smurfs? Is that why it's in there? I'm like, maybe
Yeah.
there's a secret meaning that only her family would know, or something like that, you know?
Oh.
Or was it like a bet where they were like, all right, you've got to put Smurfs in a book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She got really drunk one time and they all dared her to do it, and she did it.
Did the Smurfs
So-
make it into the movie?
Yes.
Yes.
They kept the Smurfs, but not the parents.
Yep.
No.
They
Right.
were like, no, what is more important here? Parents or Smurfs?
Smurfs.
So basically, Josh is trying to tell her to stand up for herself because she is constantly getting pushed over by other staff and things like that because she's so nice. And Lucy is arguing with him for really no reason. And we get this little interchange. So Josh says, the sad old guy thinks you're flirting with him. Lucy, that's what people say about you. Josh, is that what you think you and I do? Flirt? Shortcake, if we were flirting, you'd know about it.
Oh, I really enjoy the nickname Shortcake.
It just gives me like strawberry shortcake, aka
The
like it
little
reminds
dolls?
me, of those little
Yeah.
dolls. Which I guess like she's small, but she's I don't know.
I thought it
Fuck
was
up.
sweet.
It's better than little one.
It's better
I'll
than
take
little one.
It's
Anything.
a dessert, so I'll take it.
Anything is better than little one. Anyway, but there's another quote from this chapter that I really resonated with, which was, maybe I'll go play in the afternoon traffic to let off some steam. I just felt that on a deep level.
That actually brings me to the next point, which is I absolutely love Lucy's inner monologue in this book. Like we said, like her, the way she thinks, and she's fucking cooked. I love it.
Yeah.
But like in this moment, her inner monologue turns to like extreme violence. And the intent behind her thoughts is how much she hates Josh. But I mean, if you swapped the intention, it could be a very kinky and sexy scenario. So we get this like situation where Josh says, what are you imagining? Your expression is filthy. And Lucy says, strangling you, bare hands. Josh says, oh, so that's your kink. And Lucy says, only where you're concerned. Both his eyebrows ratchet up and he opens his mouth as his eyes go completely black, but he does not seem to be able to say a word. It is wonderful.
I always
His
wonder
pupils
about
are
that
dilating.
description. The eyes go black with lust. I don't think I've ever experienced that. That would just be so
Lucy-
fucking creepy. Sorry. If
It
you
would-
just,
oh, no.
like, you're getting into the mood and then they just turn into a demon from Supernatural. It's like, oh, shit.
That's exactly what I was going to relate it to as well. I was like, oh, better get Sam and Dean over
Yeah.
here, get some.
Dean.
I would be a demon just so they could fucking stake me.
So she took a photo of Josh's planner when she was snooping. So later on, she's going over the photo of Josh's planner, and there's like D's and S's and X's with dashes next to them, and she doesn't know what they mean, but she's trying to figure it out. One day, Lucy's playing the "You're just so" game, where she says, "Oh, you're just so, never mind," and then he takes the bait. And Lucy can just rag on him for a while. And I love this.
Yeah, I would use this all the time. Or I'm like, you like stare at what they're wearing and they're like, what? And you're like, nothing. I'm such a gaslighter.
That is like epic older sister energy. But I
Look.
don't have sisters, but I assume that's what they do.
My older sisters just tell me I've got autism. So
We can confirm Bryony has not been diagnosed with autism.
it's not unlikely, given how interesting I am, but, you know, classic older sister vibes.
God. Okay, anyway, we're drastically off topic there, but that's okay. So we discover that Josh calls Lucy Shortcake because her parents own a strawberry farm. And her mother writes on a blog, and on their website there's this little photo of young Lucy having the time of her life, and she's in like these cute little overalls, like it's a whole vibe. And Josh literally has the website bookmarked so that he can just bring it up with the click of a button. So Lucy gets a little bit teary looking at the website because she's very homesick and she misses her parents. And Josh looks like he is concerned about her, but the moment is broken up with a reminder for a staff meeting.
And again, why were the parents not in the movie? They clearly played a big part in her emotional fragility.
Yeah, no, they just yeeted past
They
that.
did that.
So no parents for you.
So Lucy idolizes her boss, Helene, who was an elegant woman, and now I'm picturing her as a friendly French version of Miranda Priestley.
Yes, I support that.
And
in the movie, she's a woman of colour.
That whole embodiment of older, put together, elegant, sophisticated, but a really good boss and a really good person and warm and approachable. Like, that's who I want to be when I'm older. And I don't think I'll ever do that because I just don't like people. Anyway, Helene tells her that there is a good but important announcement being made in the meeting, which is scary. It's never a good sign when your boss is like, we have something to tell you in front of everyone.
During the meeting, Lucy notices that there's a cute guy called Danny who is flirting with her. And she's like, God, how did I not really notice there was a hot guy in the office now? Can't relate. I'm very visually aware of people. Helene and Bexley basically announce that there will be a new job role as a third executive. That person will be just below Helene and Bexley and in charge of Lucy and Josh. And obviously, both Lucy and Josh want the job because that would mean that they're the other person's boss. And it also becomes very clear that Helene wants Lucy to have the job and Bexley wants Josh to have the job. So there's a little competition happening. Lucy thinks that this is the most important game that she and Josh will ever play, which, yes, she's not wrong. The whole office is aware of the long history of crazy between Lucy and Josh. There's this whole scene where they competitively walk to go and make themselves a coffee and a tea, and the banter is just phenomenal.
So funny.
It's so funny. The quote we get is, Mummy and Daddy love you very much, kids, Joshua says quietly, so only I can hear him. To the casual onlooker, he's politely chatting. Sometimes we get excited and argue, but don't be scared. Even when we're arguing, it's not your fault. It's just grown-up stuff, I softly explain to the apprehensive faces we pass. Sometimes Daddy sleeps on the couch, but it's okay. We still love you.
It's so funny.
Oh, that's good.
And they're just storming and everyone's watching them pass oh no. And they're so scared that the HR person, Jeanette, is summoned and she appears like a magical genie just to make sure that nothing happens because they're just fucking up this poor woman's mental health.
Yeah, poor Jeanette.
So bad.
Jeanette needs a HR rep for herself.
When Jeanette leaves, we get this quote because they're obviously talking about the new job role and he's like, I'm going to win. And she's like, I'm going to win. And then we get this quote from our old pal, Josh. When I'm your boss, I'm going to work you so fucking hard. Ooh. I was like, rom-com, where? What are you doing? Oh my God, JC, you still in the corner, darling?
No.
He's literally back up on the crucifix at this point.
He's hung
He's
himself
I had
back
2
up
weeks
there.
off.
So Lucy says that if Josh gets the job, then she will resign and makes him promise the same. Lucy also thinks that Josh is making marks in his planner when they argue. So that is something to note.
So that night, she is on a video call with her parents, who don't exist in the movie, and she thinks about how much she misses them, but can't get the time to travel and see them. And I really liked the emphasis on the homesickness she feels, but her dad really annoyed me. He just was a lot to deal with. He's all up in her business and is she's quite literally his beautiful little princess who can do no wrong and the sun shines from her asshole in his mind. It's just a bit sickening.
I really liked the hand gesture for asshole. In the
And then it
And
springs.
it springs because the sun's shining out of it. But yeah, I don't know. For some reason, that situation irked me. So maybe it's a good thing that we didn't meet him in the movie. But it's the next day now. She's had a little cry. She misses Mummy and Daddy. We're moving on. She plans to wear a short black dress to work to scandalise Josh. But it's not just a short black dress. It's a short dress with heels and fishnets. And that is a bold choice for corporate wear.
I would never.
And the fishnets have little diamantes on it.
Those
as well.
fishnets
Then
were purchased from an adult-only stock.
I feel so much secondhand embarrassment just thinking about wearing fishnets to an office environment.
Oh my God, so
I'm unsettled.
Much. It actually makes me feel sick.
Maybe if you had them on with like a knee-high boot and with a big coat, so you didn't see them. Maybe you only you only get to see like a little glimpse of them when she sits, and it's like, did I really see that? No. But like the whole leg in a diamante fishnet with a red stiletto.
True.
Oh, it's just a lot.
No. Anyway, he makes comments all the time about her cute librarian style, and she has decided that ends now with the fishnets.
She's like, it ends with us right here.
Right here. Check these fishnets out. Atlas. But so we have this quote. There's not going to be a single mention of strawberries tomorrow. Joshua Templeman is going to spray his coffee out his nose when I walk in. I don't know why I want him to, but I do. What a confusing thought to fall asleep with.
So that night, however, Lucy ends up having a sex dream about our friend Josh. We get this quote. He's braced over me, pressed against my back, warm as sunlight. His voice is a hot whisper right in my ear as he twists his hips to grind himself against my butt. I'm going to work you so fucking hard. So fucking hard.
Ooh.
It's very sensual.
Oh, goodness.
So when Lucy goes to work the next day, she is wearing a trench coat over this tiny black dress. So she's basically doing a classy call girl vibe. So she's got a fishnet, she's got her red stilettos, a short black dress, but you can't see the black dress because there's this beautiful little caramel trench coat.
She's also doing something that I've done before where you talk yourself up for an outfit and you're like, this is a great decision. And then you put a coat on to hide yourself because you regret it, but you've also committed, so you're trying to push on.
Yep.
So Josh asks her if she has a hot date when he sees the fishnets. And she lies and says yes to cover the reason she's dressed up, because why on earth would you otherwise be wearing fishnets to the office, Lucy? Bizarre. So she's acting quite odd, as we've established. And he asks what's happened, like he cares for her. And we get this little dialogue. Lucy says, quit looking at me. And he says, can't, you're right in my line of vision. Lucy, well, try. Josh, it's not often I see such an interesting choice of thigh-revealing attire in the workplace. In the HR manual for appropriate business attire. Lucy, you can't take your eyes off my thighs long enough to consult the manual. It's true. He looks at the floor. But after a second, the red sniper dot from his eyes recommences at my ankle bone and slides up. Josh, I have memorized it.
It's like, what do you have memorized, Josh? The shape of her thighs, or is it the HR manual, darling?
Which is it?
I just love how quick they are with each other.
The banter's good.
It's such good banter. And Lucy really has to lean into the whole date lie at this stage. And Josh, so she's like, oh yeah, this is where we're going at this time. Josh is like, well, isn't it funny? I'm going to be there at that time as well. And so at this stage, she now actually has to find a date. Good. Great even. Great. So Lucy decides to destabilise this man's sanity and decides to talk about the dream she had. And I love her so much at this moment. He's literally getting like a boner in his pants from the description she has for her dream, which also inappropriate for work, but we don't care at this point. And she's like, oh, I'll come over and tell you. I lock my computer screen. And Josh responds with, I'm fine. And Lucy's like, I have to share it.
He's so stressed.
He's so stressed. So I walk over slowly and put my hands on the edge of his desk. He looks at my fishnet legs with such a tormented expression I almost feel sorry for him. This is unprofessional. He glances at the ceiling for inspiration before finding it. HR. Is that our safe word? Okay.
I literally am obsessed with this moment. It is
I'm
everything.
cackling. It's so good. And she ends up leaving a post-it note. Like, she kisses it because she's got red lipstick is part of her vibe, like, all the time. So she kisses this post-it note and sticks it to his screen. And, like, oh, I just love it. It's so good. It's
good.
so good.
Lucy then decides to ask Danny out on a date for tonight. So she's found that hot guy from meeting. Remember him that she was like, oh, you looked at me once, so you'll do. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm super keen. Let's go to the random bar that I've never heard of before. Meet you there at 7. So that's all happening. And then she designs this team building exercise, which Josh hijacks and declares that instead they're doing paintballing. So paintballing's happening essentially at some stage, which is going to be fun for everyone involved. Good to know. Okay. Josh thinks that Lucy is lying about her date. He doesn't know about Danny yet. And he insists on driving her to the date because he thinks that he's just going to pull up there and there's not going to be anyone there. It's going to be embarrassing. But the joke's on you, sir.
Because she does have a date. So, anyways, they are basically in the elevator and there's a little bit of banter, but also more. Are you ready? So, the quote is, he looks down at me, his eyes dark and intense. He's clearly deliberating something. Maybe he'll murder me. Maybe he'll murder me down there. I'll end up dead in a dumpster. The investigators will see my fishnets and heavy eye makeup and assume I'm a hooker. They'll follow all the wrong leads. Meanwhile, Joshua will be calmly bleaching all my DNA off his shoes and making himself a sandwich.
What the fuck?
She's such an odd person, but, like, sure.
I love it.
Yeah, I am so here for it.
Also reminds me a lot of Bryony when it's like murder. The first thing she thinks of.
It is. It's so much like Bryony, yes.
Lucy is somehow all of us.
I know, yeah. So, Josh then stops the elevator mid Lucy thinking about how he's going to murder her. And Lucy's like, well, maybe he is actually about to kill me. This is it. Instead, Josh scoops her up by the waist and balances her ass on the handrail of the elevator. Her arms are on his shoulders and her dress is slid up to her thighs. It's all revealing. She curves her leg around him for balance. He sounds like he is struggling to motherfucking breathe. And then he kisses her.
Ugh. And at first she's shocked, but then she's like, actually, get back over here. And the quote we get for this kiss is, not seeming to mind, he explains the rules with his mouth. The kissing game goes like this, shortcake. Press, retreat, tilt, breathe, repeat. Use your hands to angle just right. Loosen up until it's a slow, wet slide. Hear the drum of blood in your own ears? Survive on tiny puffs of air. Do not stop. Don't even think about it. Shudder a sigh, pull back, let your opponent catch you with lips or teeth and ease you back into something even deeper, wetter. Feel your nerve endings crackle to life with each touch of tongue. Feel a new heaviness between your legs. The aim of the game is to do this for the rest of your life. Screw human civilization and all it entails. This elevator is home now. This is what we do now. Do not fucking stop.
I don't know if I've ever experienced, like, kissing being referenced as a wet slide.
No.
Not in a good way.
Mm-mm.
I've had bad wet kisses.
Yeah. I've had, like, a lot of saliva, a lot of the...
But it sounds hot.
This sounds really hot. And I love the end, like, caveman kind of vibe. Like, this elevator is home now.
We never leave. But both of them are just consumed by this kiss. And we nearly get 3 glorious pages of a kiss. And Josh smiles during the kiss. And that's what makes Lucy pull away. Because then she's like, oh my God, he smiled. And then it turns out that they've bumped the help button on the elevator. So the intercom's like, are you guys okay? And that breaks up the moment. They end up making it to Josh's car and Lucy is in a state of shock, which is fair. They start talking about the kiss in the car and Lucy says that she thinks Josh kissed her just to mess up her date with Danny. And it is at this moment that Josh realises she does in fact have a date and it was not a lie. So then he's shook.
Silly boy. Silly boy. Lucy says that she wishes they could be friends, and Josh says we'll never, ever be friends. Oh,
Ouch.
ouch. Lucy runs out of the car and into the bar with her date, Danny. And this part just seemed really childish to me. Firstly, not everyone is going to be your friend. Sometimes people are just cunts, and that's okay. But here, does she need a neon flashing sign above his head that says, I am in love with you, you fucking idiot? Because,
Yes.
Look, I get that, right? But I'm also a person who has I used to be a very, very, very big people pleaser. Like everyone, if someone didn't like me, I would take it so personally, and I would feel like I had done something incredibly wrong. I stopped giving a fuck when I started working in like a male-dominated environment. But when I was younger, I was like, when the other girls wouldn't like me and it was a very bitchy environment, I remember being like, my mum was like, you can't take everything so personally. Like, not everyone's going to like you. But I was like, I need to be loved.
but I get that.
I remember it so vividly.
We all go through that as kids and teenagers and young adults. That's sort of how we discover who we are. But I'm assuming that these two are in their mid to late 20s. You'd think she's already done that work.
Yeah.
And like she can still feel the feelings of like, oh, that's really hurtful that he said that, and not like run out.
Not
like,
externalize it as much.
Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah.
So she goes into the bar and things are lovely with Danny. He compliments her and he's genuinely just seems like a nice guy, which is like a running thing within the book. She ends up going to the bathroom and is leaning against the hall outside when Joshua appears with her coat that she left behind his car when she just took off running. And she starts laughing, but then it turns into crying. And she's giving off some unstable energy here. Like, again, imagine that she's built all of these games up in her head and it's all just one-sided. And this poor bloke comes in to give her back her jacket and she just starts hysterically laughing and then crying.
Oh, wow.
I just picture if like this scenario was happening and I was like emotionally unhinged already, like, and I was already on a roll with my feelings for that day, and someone was like, you left your jacket in the car, I would probably be like like I would probably fucking cry. I'm such a spastic sometimes that I'm like, yeah, I'd probably do it. I don't know. I think that's why sometimes I relate to this like Lucy so much. It's like I'm like like when I'm extremely emotionally unhinged, that is. But yes, so Lucy's a little bit unhinged, as we all are at times. But she basically says to Josh, she's like, you fucking won, all right? And that he should be happy with himself. And Josh is basically like, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to win. And she's like, whatever, go away. And he says that he basically shouldn't have kissed her and begins to talk about HR. And then that basically snaps Lucy back into gear because our friend Danny has obviously complimented her and has said, you look beautiful, and she just can't take the compliment. So we get this. Lucy says, you've broken me down so completely, I can't even handle it when a guy tells me I'm beautiful. Dismay spreads across his face. That's why I'm crying. Danny told me I'm a beautiful girl, and I nearly fell off the bar stool. You've ruined me. Ouch. That fucking hurt. And I feel that personally when you are in a situation where you are feeling less than what you are, which is a fucking spectacular, beautiful specimen because you're a woman and we're all just amazing and perfect and there's nothing ever wrong with us. Not biased whatsoever. No. And you're made to feel less than. It's like someone else could be like, oh, but you look great in that. And you're like, but I don't feel like that's not how I've been made to feel. You don't believe it. Yeah. And so Josh basically leaves after that and he looks devastated when he does leave. But Lucy, I'm like, fuck that. If he has made you feel like that, then fuck that man. Fuck him. But then again, if she is this emotionally, like, absolutely spastic and she's coming up with all these things in her head and Josh is just like, I didn't even say anything. I haven't done anything. I don't even know your name.
I'm so sorry. Lucy takes the next day off because she now needs to deal with the devastating blow of discovering that someone finds her beautiful. The date with Danny went well, but all she can think about is the kiss with Joshua. Someone delivers a huge bouquet of lipstick red roses with a note. You're always beautiful. And Lucy, because she's a fucking dipshit, thinks they're from Danny.
Literally.
Literally.
Yeah. Anyway, she goes back to work the other day following this and knows that both Josh and her have applied for this new job.
As she's walking to her desk, Josh apologizes to her. Like, he's really, really sorry. And, like, he even looks rough around the edges, like he hasn't slept well in a couple of nights and he's a bit less clean cut. And she just thinks, he looks divine and he's looking at me with a memory in his eyes. So Josh then says that they should put their weapons down, and they have this whole interchange where they both mime, like, taking guns out of holsters and unstrapping weapons from themselves. And I loved it.
I love it so much.
And I will say that was done well in the movie as well.
Yeah. They then basically call a truce. And Josh asks if she will report him to HR because of the kiss. And she says no, on the condition that they never speak of it again. Josh basically asks her, yep, like, if that's what you want. And she says yes. But, alas, no, she is wrong. She still wants to do the tonsil tango. And we get this quote. All I want to do is kiss you until I fall asleep. I want to slide in between your sheets and find out what goes on inside your head and underneath your clothes. I want to make a fool of myself over you.
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
It's escalating quite quickly from here.
It is.
Flash forward and it's paintball day.
Yay.
And again, I just love the internal dialogue in this book. Like, it's just fantastic. Great example of this is this quote. Today is a magnificent black t-shirt day. Write today in your diaries. Tell your grandchildren stories about it. I tear my eyes away, but they slide back moments later. Underneath that t-shirt is a body that could fog an elderly librarian's glasses. I think my underwear is curling off me like burning paper. Which is what happens when I think about Henry Cavill, especially when he's building a PC.
Literally. Oh my fucking God.
I want to live in his chin dimple.
Yeah.
Just make a little home in there.
Make a little house.
In the chin dimple.
In the chin. There'll be space for all of us.
We'll be a little sister wives.
All right.
Okay.
So they're all in casual clothes because obviously paintball. It's inappropriate to wear fishnets to paintball.
Yes.
But both Josh and Lucy seem to be equally affected by the other in casual clothes. Which, on a side note, I would be flustered if there's a hot person that you work with and then all of a sudden they're in new clothes. It's just unsettling.
Oh my God, especially like a black t-shirt, that just sends me, that does.
And again, with the banter, we get this quote with Josh saying, "You thought I'd be paintballing in Hugo Boss?" And Lucy says, "Hugo Boss, eh? Didn't they design the Nazi uniforms?" And Josh just goes, "Lucinda, I swear." He closes his eyes for nearly a full minute. He pinches the bridge of his nose, and I swear he's trying not to laugh or scream.
Oh, no.
Lucy is actually entirely over the hating game. She is too exhausted and genuinely does not want to hate Josh anymore. She's trying to ignore him, but Josh says, "Play with me for a minute." He somehow knows about the roses and asks how they are, and as they explain to the co-workers the aim of the day, Lucy is very much starting not to feel too flash hot. And she's sweating. And her stomach is very much doing the, like the sound that your stomach makes, or like the sound, for example, that my dog's stomach makes when he's not feeling very well, which is like...
As the paintball begins, Lucy and Josh are on the same team because, of course, he designed it that way. When they spot Danny in a separate game, Josh shoots him, even though they're not playing against each other. And I kind of really enjoy that.
I decided to do it for my 16th birthday.
Nice.
So for context, at that time, I've got my youth leader friends, which were men in their 20s. And then my high school friends, which were all conservative Christian girls in around 16.
Right.
You can see where this was
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
It was a slaughter.
Oh, no.
And one girl got so scared that she shot someone from like under a meter away and drew blood on her arm. My mum shot me in the arse because I was hiding, but my butt was sticking out. So mum's just didn't go well, but I would still do it again. Would love to.
I would love to do it, but like I'm also extremely uncoordinated, so it might not work out very well for myself. But I also have a lot of pent up anger. But that is why I like Laser Skirmish. I like Laser.
I love Laser Skirmish.
Laser Skirmish. Like I could play that shit all the time, but it's also very sweaty these days. So, like you'd have to do it on a really, really cold day so that you didn't like just come like covered in sweat, like head to toe. Because I get real into it. I like to like roll on the floor, like COD, Call of Duty shit. Like I am like,
Right.
Yeah,
So
okay.
the tension is building, and at one stage, their bodies are pressed together against a tree. Beautiful. And they are both clearly still thinking about that kiss.
The moment is ruined as someone shoots at them, and whoever it is goes way overboard and just like unloads into Lucy. Josh ends up shielding her body with his and takes a whole bunch of the shots. But at this stage also, Lucy is boiling in her suit and is not very well. Josh is picking up on it almost before she is, but she's ignoring it and pushing on. The games continue, and then at one stage, Lucy throws up. She does a quick tactical vom. And then when the games finally wrap up, Josh is very concerned about Lucy's health. They all go to get back on the bus, but like to go back to the office, but Lucy runs to the bathroom and starts vomiting. Josh ends up coming to find her, and she is not okay. The bus trip back to the office is understandably shit because she has just chucked up her lungs, and all she can focus on is breathing and feeling Josh next to her, and he ends up looking after her, essentially.
yeah. So when they get back, Josh ends up driving her from like where the bus leaves them back to her apartment and looks after her. As he's in her apartment with her, he's like, we should take you to a doctor. And she's like, no. And then he ends up leaving for a while, and Lucy ends up fantasizing about him in the shower. But then he comes back. Surprise! He's basically fussing all over her, and she asks him to stay, and she falls asleep with him watching over her. Very cute.
At one stage when she wakes up, because at this stage she is super delirious. She's got a fever, she's vomit everywhere. And at one stage she wakes up while Josh holds her while she vomits. And then she goes to the toilet with the door open and realises that he has now seen nearly all of her at her absolute worst. Her mental dialogue is, there's nothing left to do but fake my own death and start a new life. Side note, this is how I felt when 1 month into dating my partner, we both got food poisoning and had to share the same toilet.
Oh, no.
Beautiful.
All of the illusions were gone.
Oh, yuck. Well, at one stage, she is so delusional from the fever that she has her hands wrapped around his throat, and he just bursts out laughing. And again, imagine if this is all just one-sided and now she's trying to murder him. Okay. Lucy thinks that it transforms him and he is the most gorgeous thing that she has ever seen. It's like, settle, petal, you've got gastro, calm your fucking farm. But this
Just a fever.
must have been some bad gastro if you're that delusional that you can no longer take care of yourself. I have experienced some pretty fucking awful sicknesses in my time, and none of which has my partner needed to change my clothes, clean my spew, or administer medication and lay with me. In fact, we just avoid each other like the plague when one of us is unwell. Like, all right, see you next week. Text you.
Bye.
I have only ever had one situation, like, as in, like, sickness. Like, I had really, really bad gastro and really, really, really low blood pressure. And I couldn't stand up. Like, I couldn't do anything. Like, I was because I had vomited up everything, and I was so dehydrated that my blood pressure was so low that they were like, when I got to the emergency room, they were like, you we need to get you a bed, like, now, because they took my blood pressure and they were like, this is so bad. I don't remember what it was, but it was something ridiculous. They were like, we don't even know how you're standing. You should sit.
No, but I sort of meant, like, yes, there can be times in life where you get that sick where it warrants someone else stepping in and being like, you're not in a position to make any more decisions about your health. I am stepping in. But if it's just
I am the enjoy power of attorney. Goodbye.
But it's, I don't know, this whole scene just, it kind of, again, gave me those vibes that she's just a small child in need of being taken care of.
It does give me that vibe in the movie too. She's like, in her little dinosaur pajamas.
Her Sleepy-saurus.
Yeah. Sleepy-saurus with her apartment of Smurfs that she can't keep clean. Yeah.
It's a whole vibe.
When Lucy next comes to, there's another man in her room, and she obviously is a bit freaked out by this, and she's not like, hi, welcome.
Hello, random stranger.
Welcome to my bed.
Welcome to my apartment. These are my Smurfs.
No, she in fact has a very ordinary response to that and yells, and Josh reassures her that he is a doctor, so all is well. So she's crawled onto Josh's lap to hide from the scary doctor man and is now using him as her own personal armchair. She discovers that the doctor is Josh's brother, Dr. Patrick Templeman. But it's all very adorable as she is still delirious, because who doesn't have a 48-hour delirious fever with gastro? Then she doesn't really have a filter, and she's sort of like, you're hotter than your brother. And then she looks at Josh. No, actually, stand corrected. You remain hotter. It's like, okay. But she basically overhears them talking about a wedding, and Josh's brother is going to put Lucy down as Josh's +1.
Yes. And basically, the cuteness continues from that point. After Patrick leaves, Josh has got her like a lemonade to help wash the medicine down, and Lucy's mum used to get her a lemonade when she was feeling sick, and it's just a cute little thing that he has remembered and has given to her.
Because he's treating her like a child that she is. Anyway, continue.
Don't ruin my sunshine.
Okay, so Josh is feeling particularly forthcoming, so Lucy just keeps asking him questions, and Lucy says that when she's better, he will hate her again, basically, and he says that he won't. She says, you hate me so much, and I can't take it much longer. I'm pathetic. I hear it in my voice. Shortcake. Stop calling me Shortcake. I try to roll onto my side, but he presses the heels of his palms lightly against my shoulders. I stop breathing. Watching you pretend to hate that nickname is the best part of my day.
I love it. I love it so much. So they end up talking about strawberries and the farm and her parents that exist in the book but not the movie. And he is so interested and asks follow-up questions, which I love a follow-up question. And the conversation is moving, and they're crossing into like an unfamiliar, completely honest and open conversation, which they rarely have. And the quote is, I'm so scared. It's all going to end soon, one way or another. I'm hanging on by my fingernails. I have no idea if their investment in me will ever pay off, and I'm so lonely sometimes I could cry. I lost my best friend. I spend all my time with a huge, frightening man who wants to kill me, and he's probably my only friend now, even though he doesn't want to be, and it breaks my heart.
Oh, darling.
That just makes me so sad, because it's like really hard when, especially if you're having a big career moment where either things are about, you're going for a promotion or you're changing jobs, and you just kind of, like, your parents are there as well, and you don't want to let them down, and you want to do right, and you just feel all this pressure on you to just perform.
Okay, I get that, but she is projecting the fuck out of this situation onto him. I spend all of my time with a huge, frightening man who wants to kill me.
That's a bit ridiculous there, isn't it, Lucy? I think you've got a bit of that delirium still going.
Yeah.
I thought I did enjoy this book, but as we're going through this podcast episode, I'm like, maybe I did not. Unsure.
Yeah, I think you are definitely looking at it from more of a
logical.
Yeah. I'm more like, oh, but grumpy sunshine.
Yeah, see, we all know that I don't like feelings. I don't like to feel things. And I think she feels things too much.
Yeah.
So Basically, the next morning, the fever breaks and she's absorbing the aftermath of the shenanigans that have taken place. At some stage, Josh has changed her bed, sheets, her clothes, and cleaned her apartment, which, like, stand there, let me suck your dick right now. I'll do it. You
drop them pants.
Honestly, acts of service is
Drop
my
them.
fucking love language. You do that for me, I swear to fucking God, that's it. That's it. There's no clothes. We're naked. She realizes it wasn't all one-sided, and they've both basically exchanged details about themselves that they never really expected to. Josh then misinterprets her actions as wanting to kick him out and leaves in a bit of a huff. And we get this quote. I stare at the ceiling and admit the astonishing truth to myself. I don't hate Joshua Templeman.
Oh. What a
shock horror. Something that we all saw coming.
What a
Oh my
surprising
God,
twist.
I'm so
Yeah.
shocked.
Oh my God. Well, Danny then calls, remember him? To check if she is okay and offers to drive her to work. And it's like, that's the last thing she wants. Danny, just mind your own fucking business and tend to your paintball bruises. But
literally,
he rocks up with a bunch of daisies. Now, if daisies aren't the weed of flowers, there are so many other options he could have gone with. But that's okay. Danny's a nice guy. He'll learn. Lucy still isn't picking up on the idea that the roses weren't from Danny. No, Danny just offers daisies. Daisies. Danny literally walks into her office and begins to have a face-off with Josh.
Bitch, this whole interaction with Danny is giving me the ick. I was like, you were nice, and now it's too much. Good day.
Yeah, because he's really, like, trying to get in his face, like, look, she's my prize.
Yeah.
I won. Look at the daisies.
It's like, you've been on one date. And one very unfortunate paintball working scenario.
Exactly right, Danny. Calm your farm. Also, I don't like your name. I would prefer Josh.
Yeah.
Then she realises that there is a rose on her desk. And it wasn't left there by Danny, was it? No.
No.
So, the dipshit finally realises it was left there from Josh. Oh my God, the roses were from him.
Ding, ding, ding.
All right. The mystery is solved. But Josh obviously gets annoyed that she's now with Danny and the daisies, and he gets shitty with her again.
The whole vibe. Lucy is trying to fix things with Josh and make it back to how it was over the weekend while she was delirious and had food poisoning. And she gives Josh a thank you gift of strawberries and offers to be his +1 to the wedding as a thank you. Danny pressures, but ultimately convinces Lucy to go to dinner with him that night, which just solidifies the ick, I feel, because this woman has just had gastro food poisoning and you're like, would you like to consume some more food? No. Lucy keeps trying to speak with Josh, but he's just not having it. So she ends up pulling him into like a cleaner's closet. I'm very excited by this.
It's like every office romance like book that I read, I want there to be a like closet scene where they're like locked in the closet and they're like having a heated moment.
Oh my God, I've watched enough Grey's Anatomy for this to happen. Like every episode. It's just...
Oh, look. Things begin to get interesting when Lucy says that she wants to be friends with Josh or something. And Josh is like, please provide some further clarification on what the or something entails, because that's very interesting. Which Josh has given us all a bit of whiplash at the moment, jumping between being like a soft, caring man and then a mean man. Lucy decides to double down and thinking like if she drops her guard, then he will too. And so she tells him, I wanted you there on Friday night, you and only you. And if you don't want to be friends with me, I'll try to play the or something game with you.
It rhymes.
Eee! Things then get steamy. She's trying to get him to kiss her and he has a boner and clearly wants to kiss her, but then he's holding back. She tells him to put his hands on her and he replies with, put them on yourself. So she does.
She motherfucking does.
And the quote we get is, he looks like he's about to pass out. My ego is nearly too big to fit in this room.
Oh, fuck yes.
Love that
so much. But then Josh does something very unexpected. He says, I want you to do something for me. I want you to have your cute little date with Danny, and I want you to kiss him. And at this moment, we're all like,
Sorry, what?
sorry, what did you just say? And he goes on, if it's better than our elevator kiss, case closed. Date him. Plan a spring wedding in a gazebo at Sky Diamond Strawberries, which is her family's strawberry farm. If it isn't as good, you have to admit it to me, to my face, verbally, honestly, with no sarcasm. And then he basically says, the or something game doesn't resume until you tell me that no one kisses you like I do. And I was like, oh, fucking shit, boy. Let's go. And basically, Josh basically explains that if Danny doesn't stack up, then she can't kiss him again, ever. Like, it's a no-no for Danny, ever again. Cut him off, sis.
Fair enough. All right, so they go back at their desks now, and the negotiations continue. Lucy says it will only be sex once. Josh is like, are you sure? Because once you get this peen, you're coming back. And she was like, nope, I'm only going to need it one time. We're all just like...
Yeah, just to get it out of my system, because
That always
there's nothing
works.
else here.
Definitely does. So before Josh walks into his meeting, he writes his home address down on a post-it note and sticks it to her screen.
Just like the kiss. I love it.
Bone Town. Oh, God.
Bone down.
Oh,
That was such like a...
Oh,
that was such a fucking, almost like a Blue Mountain State reference. Bone Town. Take her to Bone Town.
I'm really disappointed in my brain.
So we flash forward. She's on the date with Danny and everything is lovely, but there's still this looming Joshness over it all. And they end up kissing, but there's no sparks. So she starts driving to Josh's house when she gets a text from him, like asking how her night went. And she sends him a poo emoji. As she's then walking around his block, because she's trying to procrastinate the inevitable, she's thinking over everything and wonders if he never really hated her, but maybe he always wanted her instead. No shit, Sherlock.
No fucking shit.
He keeps texting her, but she doesn't reply, and then she's walking into his building at the same time that he is, and they see each other. I'm angry because they don't do the romantic run together, which you know I love. Instead, it's more like a slow waltz closer as the banter continues. So the quote we get is, the date itself went fine, I begin, but he steps close and cradles my jaw in his hands. The tension is crackling like static. Fine and great and nice. You need something more than fine. Tell me the truth. She says, fine is exactly what I need. I need something normal and easy. I see disappointment in his eyes. That's not what you need. Trust me.
Oh.
Don't tell me what I
like it.
need and what I don't need, motherfucker.
But also in this moment, I'll take
Yeah,
it.
literally. But if Josh Templeman wanted to say that, that's fine.
If Henry Cavill shows up, hell, if Charlie Hunnam shows up, we've removed ourselves from the
Extricated
We've
ourselves.
come out.
We've been popped like a little pimple from the chin dimple.
Henry Cavill comes up to you and his chin dimple starts talking to you.
And he's like, that's not what you need. Trust
Okay.
me.
You need to be nice and cozy in my chin dimple.
Hop on in. Oh, no. What's wrong with us?
Oh my God.
No idea.
So much.
Lucy confesses the truth. No one can kiss her like he does. He steps closer, wraps his arms around her and kisses her. He then ends the kiss quite chastely, a whole page later, and says it's his signature first date kiss.
Ew.
Yeah, no, that's gross. No.
If you have a signature first date kiss, you can take that kiss and show it your fucking anus.
Yeah. We don't need to hear about how you go with your conquests, sir.
We
Anyway,
don't need to hear how you kiss other women.
Ellie's like, excuse me, I'm the only woman you even know.
this is your first date. I really enjoyed the juxtaposition between the two kisses here. First with Danny, and it's described that they've just left the restaurant. She's wearing a beautiful red dress. It's flowing behind her. The ground's all reflective from the rain. It's basically picture perfect. But the kiss is just, it's like kissing your cousin. Not great.
Oh,
Not in this
Not
book.
in this
dear
book.
God, absolutely not.
But then she kisses Josh in an alleyway next to a bin, and that's when she gets all the feels. And it's like, oh, see that, girls? You can be romanced in dark alleyways. It's not all bad and scary. Then Lucy just tries to run away after their beautiful, magnificent...
Yeah, she literally just fucking runs. Like, she's
Run.
like, good, that was great. See you later.
It just reminds me of the
Goodbye.
Sims character. Like, you get made to do the interaction and then she's got another task on her thing. So she's like, oh, fuck, okay.
Oh. Josh literally scoops her up under his arm and carries her to his
He's like, you
apartment.
ain't getting away that easy.
And Lucy has just gone off the fucking deep end at this stage and is just taking like deep inhales of his smell like she's a sniffer
I thought this
dog.
was so funny. Like how she was literally like, everything's fine.
Weird.
So he basically tells her to snoop in his apartment because he knows that she's dying to do it. So she does, and she notices little things that she has done, like an origami bird that she flicked at him in a staff meeting, and like a post-it note with the kiss on it. Like he's got them around his apartment. It's
Super
very,
interesting.
very cute, and is giving me motherfucking he's in love with you vibes. Then she looks at his bedroom, which is painted a specific shade of blue. It is his favourite colour, but there is an underlying tension there, and she can't pick up on it. And we're all like, babe. And like in the movie, this is where it's different because Lucy Hale has like green eyes. So it's like the wall is painted green.
Oh.
Which I appreciated that at least. They weren't trying to make it something
That it wasn't.
it's not.
Yep.
And also, I hate the shade of blue they describe in this book. It's like a weird...
Light like a robin's egg. Is that what they said?
That's
No.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think someone who has that bright blue eyes, like that light blue, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I haven't met someone with like super like ice blue.
No.
So Lucy thinks they're going to fuck, but they do not. Instead, they end up sitting on the couch and watching reruns of ER, and they hold hands. And the quote we get is, "I was thinking how big you are. I look at our joined hands. He carefully strokes the length of my palm with his thumb. When we look at each other again, his eyes are a little darker. I'll fit you just right." That's how you deal with a size difference in romance. You don't call the little one.
Oh, for God's sake, why did you bring that back up into this, Bryony?
Trauma.
But just when Lucy thinks that they're going to have hot, steamy sex, Josh is like, let me walk you back to your car. And it's like, oh, that was a sharp turn.
All right, fucking up.
Josh says that they are not having sex tonight and seems to be put off by the notion of only being wanted for his casual sex body. For just casual sex and or his body. Which it's like, don't objectify me. I am a fragile man.
Yeah.
I have feelings too under my eyes.
I'm like,
But also, we are just sitting here objectifying poor Henry
We
Cavill.
really are. Oh, sorry, Henry.
all the time, forever.
The next day, Josh has the day off, and Lucy is realising that she is in over her head. She ends up sending him like a bunch of off-white roses with a note that's, "I want you for more than your body. I want you for your Matchbox cars," because he also had Matchbox cars around his apartment. That's his equivalent of the Smurf.
Like she took the Matchbox car.
Oh yeah, she's taken
stole-
like
yeah.
a souvenir from his house.
And at the end of the chapter, I remember because I was like, this is super odd. He like strokes her, he like puts his hands on her face, but while she's holding her face, because she's stressed, and he's like puts his hand over her face, and she like rubs down her face, and she's got the Matchbox car, and she's like, and I feel the wheels roll over my face, and I was like, that is so odd.
It is so weird. And then she holds it the whole way home while she's driving.
Yeah.
Oh, Lucy, you're just a bit
Really.
weird.
It's just so odd.
Yeah.
Lucy practices her presentation on Helene, who is incredibly enthusiastic about her plans for the new job role. The interviews for the new job are next week, and Lucy is all twisted up. Life would be easier if I could just hate Joshua Templeman. I look at his empty chair and then close my eyes, the blue of his bedroom washing through me. I'm about to lose something that I never had to begin with, which is very disappointing for her. She ends up going home early for the day and then calls Josh. He ends up inviting her over and is like, no, I'm at the gym and I'm sweaty and I need to clean up. So, like, just wait. And she's like, absolutely not. This is like fucking cocaine. I am a sniffer dog. I'm going to race you home. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, go.
Just invited myself to your house when you're not home. You've asked me to wait so I can go home and make myself presentable, and you've said, no, I will be there when you arrive.
On the race to Josh's apartment, they end up meeting in the elevator and she ends up jumping him. She's literally leaping into his arms and doesn't let go, wraps herself around him like a koala, so he has to walk with her like stuck to him.
Josh then has a shower and makes them dinner, and it's like, yes, sir, so you should make her dinner, even though she invited herself over to your house, but that's fine. As he's cooking, he says that he doesn't want to rush this thing between them, because if they fuck straight away, she will just break down in a panic, which, let's face it, now that we know Lucy, we can agree with that statement. They call for a 2-hour ceasefire while they watch TV and eat dinner. He ends up listening to her heart rate while they talk about his past life in medicine, because Joshua was studying to be a doctor. Interesting. Lucy is getting turned on, and so is Josh. But they're also watching a young George Clooney, so can you really blame them?
You can't. They end up talking more about their wants and interests, and Josh is describing his like dream fantasy of being at an Italian villa with like this woman for weeks. She's like, wow, I'm super jealous, because she's not picking up on the fact that he doesn't want her for just one night. He wants her forever because he is in love with her.
Literally.
So then they start kissing on the couch. It's so fucking hot. But just some of the quotes to guide us through this moment. Quote number 1. Images of us in another life in Tuscany are still behind my eyelids as he kisses my mouth open, touches my tongue with his, and breathes. He sighs. He's wanted this. He's been craving as badly as I have.
And I just really wanted to continue on here. We get this next quote. A miracle has occurred, and I don't know when, but I know it now. Joshua Templeman does not hate me. Not one bit. There's no way he could when he kisses me like this. And then we get this next. We have 2 more quotes. So the first one is, can you even imagine how it would be between you and me all day, every night? He knows exactly what I mean. Oh, yeah. And then the last one, like you said just before, the trick is to find someone who's strong enough to take it, that one person who can give it back just as good as they get. Which, yes, this is a big thing. If you have no banter, if you have no back and forth, if there's no tit for tat, I don't really want it.
Yeah. If you're a pushover or you can't hold your own against the other person, it's not equal.
Yes.
No.
Josh ends up sending her on her way again, and they don't fuck, which is really unfortunate for Lucy. She's having a very hard time. She's very horny.
She is. The next day at work, they're playing the act natural game, where they both act like nothing sexual is happening. Instead, it is just steamy ice sex that makes us have an anugasm.
An anugasm!
There it is.
There it is.
So Josh helps encourage Lucy to stand up for herself with a colleague that always pushes the deadline. And it's a beautiful friendship which, without the eye sex and orgasms, is exactly why good work friendships are the best. Bexley then appears. He's perving on Lucy. It's weird, it's gross. Please don't do that. Until he says that him and Josh might need to strategize about the interviews. And Josh replies with, I'm not going to need any help beating her. Ooh.
Like, are you fucking kidding me, bro?
It's a bit rough. And the moment just completely shatters Lucy. And even though Josh says he was lying, Lucy's just not okay. It breaks her out of her little horny bubble and she remembers what's at stake. But also, he's apologised. He has communicated that he said the wrong thing. He's just trying to save face. Anyway, I love a miscommunication trope. Moving on. Lucy leaves the office to see Danny for a coffee about her project idea for her interview. And Josh follows, which is sort of a red flag.
Yeah, that's not good, Josh. Bad Josh.
Josh and Lucy are bickering again when Josh tells Lucy to bring a packed bag for the wedding on Friday, as they have to drive there and are staying overnight in a hotel.
Yes.
Yes, I already knew what was coming. I was like, one bed trope.
That's what we want. He needs her as his moral support for this wedding, which is very interesting. I wonder why.
That night, on Skype with her parents, Lucy ends up asking her mum if her mum ever regretted giving up her professional career to support Lucy's dad. Lucy's mum says, "For you, I'd tell you to keep walking. I want things for you. Keep your eye on the prize, and whatever you do, just keep walking." Lucy's trying to be vague at this stage to be like, this is what I'm going through, but I don't want to tell you what I'm going through. But her mum realises anyways and why she's really asking. And she tells Lucy to keep walking unless what's offered is as special as what she is striving for. We've kind of briefly spoken about it, but I really adored this aspect of the book. Like it's something that I look at my parents and I think about how, like, I'm planning for my own life and what I want. And sometimes you question if the choices they made have played out the way they thought, or if they're still happy that they made the choices they did, if they're fulfilled. And I just liked how that was explored in the book.
And then yeeted from the movie.
And then was not touched on at all in the movie.
No parents.
No.
She's an orphan.
No life choices. None of it.
So it's Friday now. It's the day of the wedding, and Josh is in Mr. Bexley's office, and there is shouting, there is yelling, and Helen has gone in as well. Jeanette from HR has also gone in, and they come straight back out, and Lucy is like on fucking guard. She is like, what is going on? Helene comes out and says to Lucy not to worry about it, but there is an odd expression on her face, which is very, very interesting. So
Yes.
Josh then comes out of Mr. Bexley's office and is acting as if nothing is wrong. Bexley, on the other hand, though, is coming out and starts muttering about the hell in a handbasket and all this kind of stuff. It's very, very strange, but we're just going to yeet straight past that.
They then go to leave together, and he holds her coat and wraps his arm around her waist. And as the doors close, Helene's standing there and watching them and laughs at the image of them, but not in a bitchy way, in like a happy, delighted way, because she's known all along.
Yeah.
Because she's this classy older woman who knows everything.
She's just not
exactly.
like oblivious to what is happening.
Exactly right.
She's
unlike Lucy.
She knows.
Her eyes are wide open. So Lucy is having a mental breakdown because it's Lucy at this point. We have come to expect this about being spotted, but Josh has given her a grand total of 0 fucks. Yes. They have a 4-hour drive to get through to the wedding, and they need to get to know each other some more, and it's very super sweet. I remember back when we first started dating, it would have been like maybe the 5th or 6th time we'd actually hung out properly, and we did the drive from Mount Gambier to Adelaide together, and it was just constant talk the whole way. It was amazing. It was like, what are your thoughts on the afterlife? What are your thoughts?
I love that.
On American politics? Like, it was just... It was really, really good. And then we did stop for a half an hour makeout session on a park bench.
Love you.
Damn.
Anyway,
Cute.
so it is very super sweet that they have this little road trip. Memento, gorgeous. And then they have their first date, and it's at a seedy truck stop diner. Lucy says that for the weekend they are just them, not enemies or co-workers, just Lucy and Josh. She says she doesn't want any more surprises, and he doesn't really respond, but Lucy doesn't notice because she's got good food. And, well,
Really.
Yeah.
Isn't that just all of us?
It is, honestly.
Yeah.
So Josh has been driving for quite a long time, so she takes over and he basically just lets loose.
He has this massive gas. He's just...
Yeah. No. He's just like, you have wonderful eyes. Like, they're so beautiful. It's crazy. He then says that he was super wound up over her dream that she told him about. And then this one time she wore army pants and flip-flops. And no, she didn't. She actually wore a lace bra and it was lilac. And he saw it and he has just been having super, super wound up dreams over it since that point.
Hang on, what the fuck? Context.
He was getting super wound up over this one time that she came to work and she was wearing like a lace bra underneath her dress and he could see it. And he got super wound up. And then in my mind, remember, because in Mean Girls, she wore arm pants and flip-flops this one time and then everyone started to wear it. She wore this lace bra this one time and then he got super wound up over it and he couldn't stop thinking about it.
And then he wore a lace bra.
Anyway, so
He's a very confident man.
yeah, we love a confident man who's confident in his
He's very secure in
his
himself.
masculinity. We love that.
He gets the support he needs.
So she tells him about her wet dream, and he basically almost comes right there on the spot. It's a very horny car ride, very, very horny. And then they end up arriving at the wedding hotel, and shock horror, there's only one room. What a coinky dink.
So happy. They're both super horny when they get to the room, and we get this quote. He releases the button on my coat with the snap of his fingers. The traitorous garment slips open as if to say, help
I
yourself.
fucking love that.
Love it. Lucy's like, let's fuck now. But again, Josh is like, slow down, Bessie.
Slow down, Bessie. Old Josh is Bessie.
But they're kissing. And the quote is, being kissed by Josh, his lips tender and ripe, which again, ripe is a weird word to use, is a pleasure on par with sex. He's thinking of nothing but me and my reactions, learning what I like, withholding and giving and talking to me wordlessly. They're kissing and then like, boom, his mother interrupts. His mother needs Josh's help downstairs, and by the time he comes back, Lucy is asleep. That's unfortunate.
She's a very sleepy girl. Because the next morning, they don't wake up until fucking 1 o'clock. And the wedding starts at 2.
I would love a sleep in.
I just imagine the stress, the utter panic that you have an hour, under an hour. Let's be fair, there needs to be logistics in actually getting to the wedding. Under an hour to get yourself fully ready for a wedding. No thanks. But a good point here is that there is, theory behind it that when you do sleep better when you feel safe. So Josh feels safe with Lucy and Lucy feels safe with Josh, so they sleep a lot together. So that's cute. That's cute.
That's cute. It's real cute.
But also set an alarm, you fuckwits. You're going to a wedding, for God's sake.
Literally.
Yeah.
It's a fucking wedding. It's not just fucking
It's so stressful.
anything else. It's a fucking wedding.
I could not make this work in an hour.
It takes me an hour to wake up from a coffee and then I'm actually a decent human again.
Seriously.
So then Josh tells Lucy about his last girlfriend who broke up with him before the merger at B&G. She was tall, blonde and tan, and in Lucy's eyes they are absolutely nothing alike. She seems to think it's what he's still thinking about now, which potentially he is, but not for that reason.
No. So they're getting ready for the wedding, and we find out that Josh has a kink for her red lipstick and looks like he's about to have an aneurysm from her applying her lipstick, which I was just like, wow, a man that needs the makeup application.
Look, absolutely.
Interesting.
Lucy's very excited to meet his family, bar his father, because his father seems like a fucking cunt. And she's not coping with how Josh is talking to her without a shirt on. And we get this quote, I'm not bored. Can we stay here and I'll find something in the minibar to smear all over you?
I do like that. That's great.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they cannot, and they travel out to the wedding. Or you meet Josh's mum, Elaine, who wants to put Lucy in her pocket, which I feel like is a bit weird, and his father.
Smurfs.
Smurfs, true. It fits. And we meet Anthony, who is his dad, and he's a cunt. But Josh isn't doing real well, and we're not too sure why, because weddings are lovely. And Mindy, who's the bride, but that name.
That's such an unfortunate.
So fucking unfortunate.
She's apparently gorgeous, and Lucy's like, wow, beauty. And then they get married, and Lucy cries, despite the fact that she doesn't know them. And I always find it very weird going to weddings where you don't really know the people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The reception's on because they're married, so that's next. And Lucy is kind of like, what the fuck am I missing? Like, Josh is acting super touchy-feely and is showing Lucy off to everyone, and people keep looking at her, and she's like, something is off.
Yeah. They discuss how they met with his family, and we keep seeing this tension between Josh and his dad, and it looks like it's basically about to burst. He basically talks to Lucy and Josh about trans fats and medical mumbo jumbo, And I literally could not listen to that for one fucking second because I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. If I want to eat a piece of cake, I will eat a piece of cake. You can suck my non-existent penis. Then Josh goes to the bathroom and Lucy gets to meet the bride, Mindy. We find out what the big issue is. Mindy is Josh's tall, blonde, model-like ex-girlfriend, and they dated, and then Patrick and her met while Josh and her were dating. Oh dear. That's a bit problematic.
Eek.
Mindy then literally basically forces our girl into the bouquet throwing event, and I swear to God, this bitch probably aimed for Lucy. Like, Mindy throws a bouquet, hits Lucy in the chest, and Lucy is so gobsmacked by the news that she's just found out. She's not even looking at the bouquet. She's looking at Josh, who's staring at her, who's talking to his mum, and she's like, bouquet hits her, falls on the floor. She does not catch it, and it is very unfortunate. She then begins to have a breakdown because she has feelings. Real feelings for Josh, and now she just kind of feels a little bit used, so she runs off because again she's good at running and she's all over the shop.
Elaine follows her and they have like a mother future daughter-in-law chat, like saying Josh should have told her, but Lucy isn't happy. Elaine doesn't necessarily try to change Lucy's feelings, but rather tells her that she thinks she should speak with Josh and that there's definitely more to the story because Josh is basically in love with her, which we all know. And then Elaine says that Mindy is nice but not right for Josh. And the quote we get is, but she never challenged Josh. You have since the first day you met him. You make him angry. You've never been scared of him. You've taken the time to try to understand him just to get the upper hand in your little office skirmishes. You notice him.
Mums know best.
I did like how she didn't come in and go like, oh, you know, he's such a good guy. He's such a good... She was like, no, he fucked up. He should have told you. He did, but I know that there's more to the story. You need to speak with him. You need to get this information from him.
Yeah. She sounds lovely apart from the whole pocket scenario.
And like the whole like husband.
Yeah, and that.
Yeah, leave your husband if he treats your children like shit.
Are those parents in it, in the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Glad.
Josh is not an orphan.
Good.
He's not an orphan.
It's a very big plot point. So they go back to the bedroom and Lucy gets a call from Danny, who was working on her interview thing, which we don't care about. Josh isn't happy. He snatches the phone and is like, fuck off. They're both jealous and pissed off. And again, red flags because he's just jealous all the time.
Yeah,
we learn that Josh wanted Lucy here as his support person for his relationship with his father, not so much the Mindy situation. His father basically hates him. We learn a snowball of information about how his dad has basically ignored him for his entire life and has been a massive cunt. And we're not really surprised by this development from what we've seen of him because, again, who does not like cake?
Yeah,
seriously. Honestly.
But that essentially is all he needs to say for her to forgive him, and they kiss.
And then they start going. She's wearing like a sexy lingerie thing under the dress, which FYI, the dress is also the colour of Josh's bedroom walls because she thought, oh, it's his favourite colour, so I'll wear that dress. It does bother me that she's wearing a blue dress with red lipstick. That doesn't work for
and
me.
Also, like, we also forgot to mention that when he sees her in the blue dress, he has a whole moment where he's literally like, whoa. He can't cope.
She's getting the desired effect. It's just we don't believe it. When, like, Josh is looking at her in her sexy lingerie under the dress and he feels like he's been stabbed, but he has not. He's just seen Sexy Lucy.
Sexy Lucy.
And Sexy Lucy. Sexy Lucy. Lucy.
Through me. Sexy Lucy.
And the quote we get is, I wish I knew how much I have of you. How much do I get? He's kissing me on the throat again, fingers tightening on mine. Until the interviews, you get it all. I say into his skin and he lets out a shaky breath, like I've offered him forever, not a few days. Interesting.
Love that.
Lucy can't cope with sexy Josh, and he says that she's got her horny eyes on again. And Lucy just says, no kidding, I want to snort you. You always smell amazing.
Such a fucking freak.
Again. What the fuck, Lucy? She's so good.
There's a few quotes that I want to take from this scene that are actually really, really fucking funny, though. Like, she just throws me. She's so random. Like, yeah, in the middle of this really intimate moment. And like this, Lucy, I'm going to die tonight. Please take your pants off. And then he's like, I want that embroidered on a pillow.
Okay.
Oh my God. And then we get, I'm pretty heavy. I'll flatten you. And then she's like, I've had a good life.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Again, we literally get a chapter of foreplay. A whole chapter. And like at this stage, dear God, I am dying too. Then just as they are about to fuck, we get this quote. I'm finally having you. And then they're fucking. The quote that the chapter starts with is, we've never played the staring game with you inside me. JC,
Oh my
close
God.
your eyes.
And imagine
You are
if
not
this
ready
is
for
the
bed.
first time he's heard about the staring game and he's like, the what now?
He's like, what?
Okay.
So we get this next quote, which is Lucy basically comparing her climaxing to death. So it's dying in a good way because, yep. She goes, I'm dying, I warn him. Josh, I'm dying. Josh lifts one of my ankles to rest on his shoulder. His arm hugs my leg, and he studies my face with interest as he increases his pace further. His eyebrows pinch together. The staring game is the absolute best when Josh is hitting my lifelong non-existent G-spot, the one that exists now.
Like the angle.
And then he's also like watching her intently with pinched eyebrows. Like, is this enjoyable for you?
He's like,
I don't like that level of eye contact, man.
it's very.
so
I
much
could never.
eye contact.
You can't see me when we're having sex. The lights are fucking off. It is pitch black, motherfucker. Oh dear. So she's basically withholding her orgasm, and I'm like, why are you doing that? And they basically don't want things to get weird tomorrow. So to combat this, they basically agree to do it all again tomorrow because sex fixes all the problems. Sure. The next morning, they wake up and they shower together, and she is basically drooling all over him, being nudie. Because again, the lights were off.
That's what. And again, that shower scene is great.
Oh.
Not
Yeah.
in the film.
They just yeet it from the film.
Also, sorry if anyone wanted a surprise when they were watching the film.
No.
We're just like, no, play by play,
Yeah.
what's missing, what's
Look,
there.
we're pre-warning you now.
It's a bit late.
At the end of the episode, we're pre-warning you. Spoilers.
Yeah, we are. Pre-warning you now. We spoiled the entire movie for you.
All my face hurts from smiling.
So she basically keeps saying things that are actually really annoying me at this stage too. So she keeps saying things like, oh, this is something to remember me by, or, you know, something like that. And I'm like, babe, it's not fucking over yet. Like you said till the interviews. It ain't the interviews yet. You guys still have time. And then Josh says, I haven't wanted you this long and gone through so much and given up so much to have you for one night. It's not enough.
Oh, my
So fucking good. They basically then go to breakfast downstairs and his family is there. But at the breakfast, they're all super shocked to see Josh there. They were all like not expecting him because as we know, he's not a very social person with his family. They scatter around and get a chair for Josh and Lucy and they all sit down. The women have a little chit chat and we all fucking hate Anthony at this point because he's judging Lucy for what she eats and now she's not happy. So we get this. Josh's breakfast is 2 poached eggs, a slice of wheat toast, and a heap of wilted spinach. He drinks his coffee in 2 swallows. I look at my own plate and pinch my stomach under the table. His body is a temple. Mine is a hut made of butter at this rate. Which, like, I feel that
Same.
personally.
Same.
I love butter.
Oh, God, he's a cunt. So she goes to get a coffee, and by the time she gets back, Anthony is down Josh's throat again. But this time, our girl Lucy isn't having it. And this might be my favourite part of the book. She puts Anthony
It's
in
so
his
good.
place. She's like, Josh is fucking awesome and you are a fucking cunt. There is a lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
But one of the
Yes.
best quotes. I think you know there's going to be no more ragging on Josh, except by me, because he loves it. Which was amazing.
Love it.
But I think it's the first time he's probably had anyone in his life speak to him that way. So he was just sort of standing there like...
And Josh is like, this is amazing. Everyone else is like, holy shit. Anthony is like, there's a tiny woman screaming at me.
Smurf screaming.
So they leave breakfast and she's literally like applauded by the staff that have watched her just shout, this is a man. They're like, that was fantastic. Thank you for your service. And as they're driving home, Josh is just so happy. Like, no one has ever gone into bat for him before, and she did, and it's this really beautiful moment, and she realizes that she loves him. They have, like, a whole romantic drive, and, like, she's thinking about how great it is and how she wishes it could last forever, but when they get home, she is freaking out. They end up playing Truth or Dare, and she asks him what the marks on his planner mean, and he says that he records whether she's wearing a dress or a skirt, D or S, and makes a mark when they argue. And the quote is, I make a mark when I see you smile at someone else, also when I wish I could kiss you.
That's so cute.
Oh, sweet man.
We get this moment I absolutely go feral for. So she's freaking out because she's realised she's in love with him and it scares her. And so he's trying to get her to talk it out with him. And we get a whole bunch of quotes, but one of them is, be brave, he tells me. Come on, loose. And then he feels her trembling when they kiss and he knows. The quote is, when he kisses my pulse, I know he's thinking about all the tiny inner miracles, and the first tear wells up in my eye. It slides down my cheek, down my neck. We're getting somewhere now, he tells me as he licks my tear. Which was an actual moment, but anyways. And then the other quote is, I'm sorry you've been bruised so often because of me. I should have protected you from myself. I've been set to a default for a long time, sort of like I attack before I can be attacked. You've been on the receiving end. Days, weeks, months, and you've handled it like no one else ever could have. I try to speak, but he shakes his head and continues. Every day, every minute, I've only ever been sitting there looking at you. What I've done to you has been the worst mistake of my life.
I fucking die at that.
Which, in terms of apologies and owning your behaviour, that's pretty good.
Yeah, he has. But she's still freaking the fuck out. And he's basically like, things may have been different if I had just smiled at you. And she agrees. But then he says, it made no difference. I loved you from the moment I saw you.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. But she doesn't believe him. And then he shows her to the mirror and asks her what his favourite colour is. It's the same colour as his bedroom wall. And the same colour as her eyes. And oh my word, this is fucking lame.
Oh,
Shut up,
it's
I
so
love it.
beautiful. And he like puts her in the mirror.
I love
and
it.
she's like,
He's like,
You see,
You
look,
see?
I
You
painted
see?
my bedroom the shade of your eyes before we were even romantically seeing each other. Because that's how much I'm into you.
he loved her from the moment he saw her, Ellie.
and at this moment, I'm hysterically happy squealing. And they play the starting over game. And he says, I love strawberries. I'm so lovesick, I eat them constantly. Can I nickname you Shortcake? It'll be a dead giveaway that I love you.
I like that.
I love it so much. So we then find out that Josh resigned. He didn't want to win the new job if it meant losing her, which, love that. He has even gotten a new job at Bexley and Gamin's rival so that they can still be competitive with each other, which I love. And we find out that this is why Mr. Bexley and him were so, like, in their argument on the Friday, because apparently he told HR and their bosses that he had one weekend left to make Lucy fall in love with him. All right. Well, that is the hating game done, which is exciting. Up next,
It's not this book, but it's the series.
you put Crown of Midnight down. Throne of Glass.
It's the series.
So exciting.
We put it out to you guys. I think we were going to do some discussions, but we've all just kind of had a really shit week. So we're starting with Throne of Glass. That's what you guys voted for. So we're going to go in the publishing order.
Which,
actually.
for reference, is Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, Assassin's Blade, Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, Empire.
Tower of Dawn.
Oh, yeah, Kingdom of Ash.
Kingdom of Ash.
Fuck, that was
That's a
Shamozzle.
lot of books.
That was a
My
schmozzle.
God.
It is, and
Yes.
the end, the closer you get to the end, the bigger the books get, the thicker they get.
Jesus.
We are probably going to break that up. Like, we'll do a couple and then we'll have a palette cleanser in there for you guys, whether that's a smart buster or, you know, it might be by the time it starts with us or whatever the fuck comes
Ooh.
out. So, yeah. So that's coming up next for everyone.
Strap in.
Yay! And now,
Yay.
with some of these episodes, we may like cut a couple in half. Like, there might be really, really big episodes because there's a lot to cover in these books. As you know, fantasy series, they're fucking huge and they've got a lot of information to unravel, and we may need possibly some more time. Like, if, you know, we all work full time. If you don't know, Ellie has 2 kids. It's a whole situation. So we may need some extra time, but we'll keep you guys updated with how we're going, with how our progress is. If you follow us on all our socials, you will be aware of that. If you don't, you should. Otherwise, you will never know.
What the fuck are you doing? So
Yes.
please like, review, rate, subscribe, leave comments, criticisms, whatever your heart desires on
Don't leave criticisms.
only
Don't fucking do that.
if you're nice, okay?
Don't.
You can find us on Instagram,
Yeah.
TikTok, YouTube. We're on there as well, and you can get our podcast, well, wherever you're listening to it now, because clearly you found us before. So on that note, we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.